Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Westport Board of Health, April 3rd, 2023 meeting. I'm going to do a couple quick announcements under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F. This meeting is being recorded. And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on first to the Director's written report. Any questions? Anything, comments on that?
I have none.
Seeing none, okay. We'll go to your oral report. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so COVID update. March, we ended up with 22 total cases being reported, no hospitalizations, no deaths. April, there's nothing being reported as of yet through the state surveillance webpage.
Good, thank you. Pump reports, anything?
Oh, pump reports always good. Check them through. There's no director approved plans this round. Animal control. Nick's doing a great job keeping up with the workload. He is working quite a few hours. He's averaging maybe 45 to 50 hours a pay period. A week, about 100 hours a pay period. Just because, he's on call, he's the only guy there and he's always in and out, so. Hopefully after town meeting, if everything passes as planned, we'll be able to advertise for that part-time position.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm just gonna turn it over to Donna, since we're on the animal control topic, to talk about the donation thing.
So recently, a student named Carly Nicholson, who lives in Westport and is in 8th grade, attending TECA Connections Academy, has requested that we put a box in front of the animal control office so that she can begin to collect things to donate to animal shelters. And I just want to read a little bit of her email. I'm emailing you on account of a civics project that I've been working on for most of the school year. We have been learning about different forms of governments around the world, as well as local governments and how they function. Earlier this year, we were assigned a project that would be worked on throughout the year, and we're instructed to choose a topic we are not only excited to work on, but have a positive outcome in our community. Another goal of this project is to acquaint students with local government leaders and other department heads. For my project, I chose to support my local animal shelters by setting up donation boxes in public spaces. After reviewing our local government website at Town of Westport, I concluded that I should talk with you about my project and get your permission and recommendations on where best location might be for this project. So as a result, she has created a box, and I don't know if we can see that, and it's right outside of the animal control office. And she is collecting donations from residents. She's looking for toys, food, leashes, collars, blankets and towels, treats, beds, and cleaning supplies so that she can give them to local shelters. So I hope that people in the community will participate, and things would need to be brought in, I think, during our regular business hours when the annex is open. So that would be Monday through Friday from, is it 8 to 4:30, Matt, or 9 to?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that's wonderful that we have a student that's willing to make a contribution to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, transfer station, it's very busy down there when, we've got a full complement of staff now, so far, so good. Things are moving along as they should. I wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to the highway department for Chris and the guys over there. They've been helping us out with the various issues we've been having with the heavy equipment. Roll-off truck sprang a few leaks, and they took it over to the highway department and straightened it out for us. The loader had extensive issues, but they were able to get the mechanical issues squared away. with that, so that was a big help. And the backhoe has a bent piston on the backhoe arm, so they're ordering that for us, and they will put it in for us. So it's been a big help, big cost savings, and appreciate all that they're doing to help us out. They're a great group of guys, and they are definitely working their tail off with such a limited crew right now.
Great. I'm going to interject at this point also, because I have a message from the Bike and Walking Path Committee. They are sponsoring, they have we have the bike recycling section at the transfer station, but they are sponsoring an Earth Day weekend bike recycling event. Drop your unused bikes in any condition at the transfer station on the lower level behind the glass recycling. You're welcome to take a bike if you need one. Drop a bike, take a bike, ride a bike, and clean the garage. What's not to love? And if you do not have a transfer station sticker, that weekend, the Earth Day weekend, Saturday, April 22nd and Sunday, April 23rd, you can enter the transfer station for the purposes of bike recycling without a sticker. They also mentioned that they have 2 spots available on the Bike and Walking Path Committee. They meet virtually once a month on Thursdays at 5:30. So they have a Facebook page, Westport Bike Walking Path Committee, and people are welcome to participate in the bike recycling. If you're interested in joining the committee, you can do that as well. So thank you.
I have a question, a
Sure.
bike recycling question, which is, because that raised it in terms of the condition of the bike, whether there are bikes that may be brought in which would be really good for parts, but wouldn't be safe to bike
Right.
on. So are they kept in a separate part, or are they labeled such?
I don't think they I mean, people just drop the bike off. So
Right.
it's not labeled. If you're interested in taking a bike, you're gonna, take it, test it out. The bikes that are dropped off that are just good for parts, they work with a group out of Fall River that teaches kids how to repair bikes.
Mhm.
So they use those parts, so they're
Yeah.
useful.
Okay,
But it's sort of, you're on your own in terms of, if you wanna take a bike, you have to look at
Right.
it and make sure that
Right.
it's rideable.
I mean, I'm asking because we have a bike which was damaged, but it's not, which would make it unsafe for riding, but it's not something that you would necessarily look at and know that. And so I don't want somebody to take it and bike on it.
Well, what I would suggest, if you wanna drop it off, is put a sign on it
Yeah.
that says, this has been damaged, not safe for cycling.
Okay,
It's
that's what I want.
being dropped off for
Yeah,
parts.
okay,
So
alright.
I would label it,
Yeah,
and I will let the committee, secretary know,
Yeah, okay.
and that's something to think about for the future. Maybe we'll have 2 sections,
yeah,
parts only and good,
yeah.
good bikes. But that's a good, comment, so I will, follow up on that.
It's the one that Deborah was riding when she got hit by a truck.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, we're all set, Matt, for your report? Okay. Moving on, we will go to minutes. We have the March 20th, 2023 minutes. Any concerns with those minutes?
Do we
Otherwise-
need to have, that Phil was absent? His name isn't on it, so I don't know that we need to.
I think I'll just abstain.
Yeah, no, I mean, in
I mean,
terms
it
of,
says,
it
it
just
was
says,
absent, yeah, usually, I mean,
Oh, usually it says
You-
it.
yeah, it had said it, but I just wanted to check on that. And then I just had one little, change, when you said you reported finishing the health awareness newspaper column, it's the health notes. But it's just a minor thing. And I did have a question about the date of the transfer station, but I clarified that with Matt, so, the May 1st,
effective date.
is the correct date,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I
So,
think,
go ahead,
and I was just gonna say that I think that none of those are,
critical.
critical, I would say, but in the future, we'll ask Bob to note who's absent.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I move that we approve the minutes for March 20th, 2023.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's
I abstain.
abstention. Okay, Phil abstained. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to other business. Our first item of business is the next meeting scheduled, actually, well, we'll come back to that in a second. For April 17th, which is Patriots' Day. We had tentatively rescheduled that, moved that to the 18th, pending checking in with you, Phil. You were not at the last meeting. Is that okay with you?
That probably is okay, yeah.
Okay,
What day of the week is it?
that would be a
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Oh,
but it would be 4 o'clock.
okay, yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
That'll probably-
All right, so do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, because I'm not on to the 24th.
No.
No, okay. Next agenda item is transfer station fee schedule, bulky items fee increase proposal, but before we start that, just a reminder, the transfer station will be closed this Friday for Good Friday and Sunday for Easter Sunday, as well as, so that's the 7th and the 9th, and as well as Patriots' Day, April 17th. So we'll have signs up.
They're
announcing
posted on the webpage. We did a press release, and both digital, the digital sign at the transfer station displays that.
that. Okay, all right. Okay, so moving on to the proposed fee schedule, I'll turn it over to you, Matt, to explain what you're proposing.
Right, so we've seen a large increase, in our C and D, particularly our bulky items. The amount of,
Construction demolition.
yeah, construction demolition that we're taking in. So that's increasing our runs, the frequency of, we have to get the cans emptied. And those items aren't container friendly, some of them are big and bulky, they're hard to smush down, it just fills up the dumpster quick. And just the increase that we're seeing in the increased runs, we're falling behind on, keeping up with the costs associated with that. And doing a fee comparison around some of the other communities and some of, their rates, I think we need to bump ours up a little bit. And I was informed the other day that mattresses that get plucked out of our dumpster are going from $50 to $75 for us to dispose of. So right there alone, we're taking a $25 hit from where we were. So I think we need to go up on our bulky item fees. So I put a proposed fee schedule and the current fee schedule you guys both have. It's not a huge increase, but it will help to keep things in line where they need to be. So just wanted you guys to take a look and however you feel about that.
Okay. Well, obviously, if it costs us more to recycle a mattress than we are taking in for income, that means, people have to subsidize, has to be subsidized from the budget, and that's not where we're at in this town, so I would think we need to raise the rates. What I'll do, we've already voted to increase the annual sticker fee, and we haven't done that in a few years, so I'll skip over that part, but I'll just itemize the current and proposed disposal fees, and then if anybody has any questions or concerns, just stop me. So for sofa and love seat, the price would go from $40 to $50. Kitchen chair stays the same at $10. Recliner stays the same at $30. A sleep sofa or sectional, this is obviously big bulky item, would go from $50 to $65. Carpet from $20 to $30. All size mattresses that do not qualify for recycling, which are the ones we're already being charged for $75 for, would go from $50 to $75. If it's recyclable, the fee is only $20. All size box springs that do not qualify for recycling would also go from $50 to $75. Table 25, toilet 15, and sink 15 are not being proposed to change. And then for bulky waste, by the load, a car trunk would go from $30 to $40. A pickup pickup truck up to a half load would go from $45 to $50. Pickup truck full load, where the bed is full, would go from $90 to $100. Dump stake body truck, half load $60 and full load $120 are not proposed to change. Non-commercial trailer up to a half load from $75 to $80, and a non-commercial trailer full load $150 to $160. So those are the proposed changes. Anybody have any concerns or objections?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. This would be proposed to be effective from May 1st. So I would take a motion to adopt the proposed fee increases as I've recited, effective May 1st.
So moved.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to increase those bulky item and furniture fees to reflect the costs we're incurring to dispose of those. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Next agenda item, the cesspool Q&A, drop-in information sessions. Those are proposed to start this Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Just for the public, the background is we are in the process of mailing notification to homeowners where we know they have a cesspool, that a reminder that cesspools need to be upgraded by February 1, 2026, because they are the most polluting form of septic waste management and have been banned in all 50 states, and we need to upgrade those in order to make progress on our nitrogen pollution problem in the Westport River and its tributaries. In terms of that, these are gonna be the virtual sessions. I'm not sure, I have not confirmed that the mailing has gone out. I don't know if you know, Phil?
I don't,
Okay.
unfortunately,
I know it was at the mail house, was supposed to go to the post office, but I haven't heard that it's actually in the mail. So presumably Thursday, we might have some people who've gotten the notice. We know, we've confirmed 216 cesspools in town that need to be upgraded. So I have some slides. I'm not sure I sent the updated slides. You all saw the first draft of slides, just to have available for background if we need, access to information for those sessions. And I'm prepared to cover them. But if we wanted to know if either of you wanted to participate or attend, whether we should then post them for as a public meeting, just because we'll have a quorum. So they're Thursdays from 5 to 6. It's virtual, you can sign in.
For how long? Just through April?
Through April is what we've scheduled,
Okay.
so the next 4 weeks.
I might drop into one of them,
Okay.
so I should let Matt know.
Yeah, if it's this Thursday.
It's not gonna be this Thursday,
Okay.
it'll probably be maybe the next one.
Okay,
And what's the timeline? Thursdays?
5 to 6. I know it conflicts sometimes with meetings for you,
Yeah.
but,
So I will,
Just if we
I'll
have
let
2
you know.
board members, I wanna post it as
Okay.
a board meeting, just
Right.
out of abundance of caution.
right. Okay.
I call it overabundance.
If anybody else is interested in, information about cesspool upgrades, they're welcome to join. But we're targeting the homeowners that we know have cesspools. Okay. So Phil, if you think the possibility of this
Yeah.
Thursday, just let Matt know
Yeah,
so we can
that's what I'll
post it.
do. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to board member updates.
I'll start, yeah, Team Cow, cleaning our Westport, just reminding everybody, it's Saturday, April 15th, from 9 a.m. to noon. We meet at the old high school parking lot to get supplies. It is a community effort to pick up the trash all around Westport to make our community much more attractive, and also, I think it adds to the public health when we take care of the property and we pick up a lot of the waste that's strewn around town. It's great for my mental health after we clean it up, that's for sure, and also being part of this wonderful group. If people want to sign up, just sign up an email, cleanhourwestport@gmail.com, and we welcome the more the merrier. I think people feel really good, after we have this event, so hopefully people will come.
Is there a rain date for that?
Generally it's the next day, but I don't think we posted a rain date. So I'm actually, after this meeting, I have a Team Cal meeting, so I will clarify that and we'll make sure that that's publicized.
Okay, great.
All right?
Thank you.
And then another update is Mental Health Awareness Month. I am solidifying all the events for that month. Right now, I have 3 scheduled. May 8th is helping and supporting our youth, mental health first aid. It will be at the high school, the new high school, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And there'll be one on May 13th at the Annex. It'll be between 11 and 2 o'clock. I haven't solidified the time, but it will be around, called A Path to Wellness, and we will have the director of the Heron Center, who will be here to do a meditation and yoga, and it's free. Everything's free for the public. And then on the 17th, we will have one of our wonderful physicians, who's a pediatrician out of Boston, Dr. Michael Yagman, who will be addressing maternal child mental health, focusing on the tragedy that happened in Duxbury and talking about how we can help our mothers manage through any postpartum depression or anxiety. And there's also another speaker who will be there, Kelly McCarthy, who is the director of the Cape and Islands Maternal Depression Task Force, and she'll also be there to speak as well. And then I'm trying to do another one on the 20th, which will be focused on managing stress. So we've got a number of things, and Matt and I are talking about doing something for the actual staff around stress management as well.
Great, thank you.
And I've also begun the Shorelines article for May,
Yep,
for Mental Health Awareness Month.
great. Thank you. We need to pay attention to mental health as well as physical health. It's all part of public health, so thank you for your efforts on that. Phil, any updates?
No, I'm regrouping from my travels.
Okay, well, I'll mention a couple things. One is the Westport River Watershed Alliance is sponsoring an electronics recycling event on Saturday, April 29th. That's behind the town hall. So this is the first time they've been able to do it on a Saturday with the Indie Cycle, the company that they partner with. So if you have any old electronics, and they take cables and all sorts of stuff, that's a great opportunity to clean out the house and get rid of some stuff that you're not using anymore. We talked about Cal. And that's it for now. We had I did the the March column was on the Public Health Excellence Grant. I don't know if I talked to you about, we wanted to do a column on fertilizers. Would you like to do that, Freddie?
I'm sure I could take a shot at it after. Yeah, sure.
Reducing use of fertilizers would also be one of the strategies to help with the nitrogen pollution problem. It's not something that we can regulate at the local level. It's only regulated at the state level. So we need to do voluntary efforts. So education on that, around that topic would be great. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Okay, anything else? Let's just,
And I have a question. How did you spoke at the Watershed Alliance meeting. How did that go?
I think it was well received. We
Yeah.
talked about the strategies that the Board of Health is pursuing around nitrogen pollution reduction, and also some of the, I'll let Phil talk about what he talked about.
Oh, so I just kind of focused on that aspect of our comments, you know, around the issue of the Title V provision in terms of the requirement for total upgrading all the systems in the septic systems in the watershed with denitrification, and how that kind of fit into the background and the planning that had gone forward up to that point in the overall strategy for nitrogen reduction, and kind of critiquing as to whether or not that was really necessary at this point, given the water quality in the river, which was kind of reflected in the Buzzards Bay report that talked about the very prolific restoration of eelgrass in the West Branch. There'd been like 300 acres, is that what it was? Of eelgrass. that-
Biggest single area.
You know, and which is a very positive sign.
Following up on that, I was on a Zoom call about that, and that, not proven, but a theory is because the West Branch is the closest to, of all the Buzzards Bay estuaries, the closest to Brayton Point power plant, that the closing down of that plant and the reduction of nitrogen pollution in the air might have had been a factor there, but I'm sure it's not the only one. All our efforts, and we did get a follow-up, or I got follow-up inquiries from the advocacy committee. They want to follow up on the advocating for the increase in the septic credit, which if you have a failed septic system that you upgrade, you can get a tax credit, which is right off the top of your state taxes, and that's pretty significant benefit, or not a benefit, but an offset to the costs. And the proposal in the governor's budget is to increase that to 12,000. So that would help all those people who have to upgrade their cesspools in Westport. So, so hopefully they'll pick up some of those advocacy efforts, as well as voluntary upgrades. So it was a successful session, and thank you. That helped carry us to. Just double check my phone, because I'm not sure that clock is correct.
It's 4:29.
4:29. Okay, I think we're close enough to call the 4:30 variance hearing. This is for 231B Tickle Road, Wayne Door. This is a 3-bedroom repair with a proposed tight tank with a reduction in distance from the tank to the well. This is a lot size of 3,450 square feet. And Alex Gordetsky is representing, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. We're back here because we had an initial hearing
Thank you.
as a local upgrade hearing, and we had to, for compliance with the law, had to conduct this as a variance hearing, which has some more requirements on us and requirements on you to notify all abutters. So, and my understanding from the notes here is there was a small change in the plan since we've seen it. Minor change.
From one of the, from Mr. Bassett's well was 49 feet, and I just tweaked it, I made it 50 feet.
50 feet, okay, and that meets the Title V requirement,
Correct.
so,
That was the-
okay. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Gordetsky to present.
So, for your consideration is a septic system upgrade. What it is, it's a,
Excuse me,
Yes.
Mr. Gordetsky, may I ask if you're gonna have conversations, if you don't mind going out in the hallway, so we don't, thank you.
so
Go ahead.
it's a undersized pre-existing lot of record. The lot is actually 3,500 square feet.
Mhm.
The there is a existing dwelling on the lot, existing well, and existing cesspool. The only feasible alternative on this lot would be a tight tank. The main reason why, because it's abutting South Watapa Pond, which is a tributary to the public water supplies to the North Watapa Pond. There is direct hydraulic connections under next to the LePage's restaurant. The Title V doesn't allow anything within 200 feet for the leaching field, and I believe 100 feet for the tank. So there is no way to place here. There are some other, let's say, restrictions, but this is the only way to make this system feasible, as far as abutters are concerned, is to place a tight tank here. And there is an existing well on the property, which is Mr. Dor's property, and this well is approximately 22 feet away, 23 feet away from the allocation of the tank. That's why there is no variance. And all the abutters have been notified, they are provided with green
Yep.
cards and receipts of the mailings, and that's pretty much it. There is one more variance that's required, is allocation of the tight tank. A requirement is 10 feet from the property line. Property line has been surveyed, and there is a stamp on the original plan by the, not on this one, on the
Okay.
original plan.
Okay,
There's a stamp by the registered land surveyor. We found bounds along the property line, so within a couple, everything matched within a couple inches. So we are approximately, the location of the tank is about 1 foot away from the property line, and approximately 1 foot away from the foundation, so that causes another variance request, less than 10 feet from the foundation. So, from the cellar wall. So that's pretty much it, and if you have any questions.
okay, so the only well that requires a variance is the property owner's well, being less than 50 feet. All other wells are at
Correct.
least 50 feet away.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
thank you. I'm gonna turn next to Matt for his report, and then we'll open it up for,
I have nothing to add, as far as the tweak was made, but, the property was the tight tank is how far, from the property line?
1 foot from the
Was-
location of the tight tank hasn't changed. From the previous plan, it was just shifted up.
Was it the property line surveyed?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Who did that?
Stephen Roy. There is where my company and Stephen Roy located, is calculated property line. So if you see, there are 2 bounds
Yeah,
shown on this plan, and we are within, there are some other bounds on record, but we are within a foot from the property line.
Okay.
Based on what we have.
I don't have any other comment.
okay. I'll open up to board members. Any questions or comments?
Well, no, I agree with Mr. Godetsky, because while there's more space on the property in terms of protecting the neighbor's well, the setback, the 50-foot setback doesn't really allow the tank to be moved, and in any event, that would be more in the direction of the pond, so I think that is probably the only place you could really locate it, and it's a tight tank, so I think there are ways that are built into the tight tank construction that also provide security in terms of the alarm system and just the way those tanks are constructed these days.
Right, and they require annual monitoring and maintenance as well.
Yes,
Exactly.
there's a schedule. Mr. Dor has a contract with a pumping company to schedule it, plus the tank has to be vacuum tested, which ensures it's bulletproof pretty much.
Right.
Okay, all right, great. I'll open it up for audience or abutter comments or questions. No? Okay. Then we'll be ready for a vote. Somebody can make a motion.
Are you ready to do this, Donna, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay, so I move to approve the plan, for 231B, Tickle Road, the rain door, plate, plan, dated March 13th, 2023, subject to the following. Reduction in the setback from the property line to 1 foot, a reduction in the minimum setback, from the property line to the cellar door to, cellar wall to 1 foot, and a reduction in the setback from the existing well on the site only, from 50 feet to 22 feet, hold harmless agreement, and I think that's it. Anything else?
I think we need Concom approval, review.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
We'll file this conservation commission for
Okay, yeah,
determination.
Yeah.
Concom approval, sorry,
Um,
no selectors.
And then, the
Pump
uh,
contract.
tight tank, pump contract and O&M compliance with,
It's on file.
Yep. we're making the
Oh, I'm
condition in the
sorry.
motion,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that's, do
And
we
I'm
need to-
sorry, did you say a 3-bedroom deed restriction too, Phil?
No.
Okay,
a
so
three-
a whole harmless 3-bedroom deed restriction, 2-year
Yeah.
pump contract and Concom review as the conditions.
And
Okay, yeah,
harmless.
we had to
and-
hold harmless, but I didn't know that.
Do we
And a
need to
whole
do,
harmless.
water testing with the tight tank? Well testing?
Well testing?
Do we need to with the
I don't-
tight
Right,
tank?
that's,
No.
not with a tight tank.
Okay. I think that's all that I've got on my list, so, a motion, you got them all? From 50 to 22 feet. Okay, I'll call a vote, all in favor? I'm sorry,
You need a second, I second it.
okay.
We didn't have a
Motion
second.
made by Phil, seconded
That's
by
right.
Donna, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gordetsky and Mr. Dorf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, thank you, that's so good. Next, I'm gonna call the discussion about Spinnaker Way LLC. This is at 50 Spinnaker Way, with regard to complaints and letter of March 6th from the Board of Health. For discussion, I'm gonna turn first to Matt to give us a background on the issues there.
Sure, so, this is a property on 50 Spinnaker Way. Back on March 6th, we sent a letter out to the property owners. We've been made aware of quite a few, there was quite a few complaints, about the number of people frequenting the property, the type of, what they were running was on the Airbnb website at the time as an 8-bedroom home with, utilizing the property with 8 bedrooms. The septic system is only designed for 4 bedrooms, according to our records. So we contacted the property owners, we went out there on, when I say we, myself, John Schwartz, and Ralph Souza, the building commissioner, went out, met with the property owners on, let's see here, on February 13th. And when we did our inspection, it was, we confirmed there was 5 bedrooms, not 8, being used. On the letter of, March 6th, we asked them to immediately restrict the dwelling to the usage of 4 bedrooms with no more than 8 persons, have the septic tank pumped within 48 hours, and immediately contact the Board of Health to schedule a date for a hearing to discuss how the property will come into compliance. So since they received the letter, they did comply, to my knowledge, with all these requirements. There was no need to discuss to schedule a hearing date to discuss how the property would come into compliance, because as far as I know, it came into compliance. So everything went quiet for a little while, then we started getting quite a few complaints from neighbors in that neighborhood. They would come in or call, saying there was a lot of cars there, the property is being used in an inappropriate way, too many people there. It's hard for us to prove that or disprove that. Just because there's a lot of people there and a lot of cars there, there's no way for us to know what's really happening at the property, so. As far as I know, there's maybe 660 square feet of land on that property, so if the property owners wanted to expand the septic system, they could definitely.
66,000 square feet.
600, I don't know, it's quite a large lot.
Okay.
660,000 square
Oh,
feet.
600, okay.
Yes, they could expand their property, or the septic system on the property to whatever would be allowed. Perk test has been scheduled, they did hire an engineer. Although I'm not really sure if that's been postponed or not, because I know there's something going on with zoning and the property. I'm not really sure what it is, but, we're just focused on the septic system and the bedrooms.
Okay,
A lot of the neighbors are here, obviously, and I know they wanted to discuss it, and that's why it's on the agenda, so.
okay, thank you. Anything from board members, before I open it up to the audience?
Well, I just say just a footnote because I saw it, but it's not in the package, which is the letter you got, from the owner's attorney stipulating that they had, changed the Airbnb or VVRO, which one, notification, and,
It was the Airbnb.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And what was it changed to, Phil? You said it was
well, that
changed,
they
but,
had reduced, because it was being, listed as 8 bedrooms, and they reduced it to 4 bedrooms, and that they were no longer renting it to more than 4 bedrooms, et cetera.
Okay. I think probably most of you, if not all of you, are here for this discussion. So what I'm gonna ask is if you would like to make a comment or have questions for the Board of Health, you can go to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record for the minutes, and we'll open it up to whoever would like to make comment.
I guess I'll go first.
Sure.
My name's Anna Sylvia, and I own 52A Spinnaker Way. We abut directly to 50 Spinnaker Way. So, Matt's question about the cars being there, we don't know how many cars are there. We have proof that it's more than 2 or 3 cars there. I believe all my neighbors agree because we all see it. I understand it's tough for you to see because none of you live there, but we come home every weekend to different cars, different people, 12, 14, 16 people, loud music at 6:30 in the morning, waking us up. This has absolutely disturbed a residential neighborhood with a commercial business being run out of. We all come home thinking we were coming home to a safe neighborhood where our kids still are able to play outside, but now we want to keep them inside because we don't know the people that are coming into this house. Also, my biggest concern with these cars in a mid-shaped driveway they have near the well is that these cars now are piling to the easement that we share, myself and my other neighbor and the residents of the owners of 50 Spinnaker Way. I just wanted the town to tell me that on the weekends when there's all these cars there, and if, God forbid, I need an ambulance, fire truck, any type of emergency, how long is it gonna take for them to get to me? Because now we gotta ask people to move cars. Is 50 Spinnaker Way going to be liable for anything, or is the town gonna be liable for anything when I need help down there? This just has changed total the character of Spinnaker Way. Because now we don't know who's there. I'm sure these people not being background checked. And it just raises also a safety concern for the children that drug dealers, sex offenders have money, they can very well rent in a house and scoop the neighborhood for these kids that are always playing on the road. That's my concern. And also going back to the septic, to me, I'm not in construction business, but this is a huge, seems like, I understand we all have the acreage, but this is a huge system, and I have land that abuts right on the side of it. And, will we be provided an engineer plan to see, because we don't want anything next to our property line, especially septic system.
Thank you.
That's my concern. I don't know if my fellow neighbors have.
Well, let me respond to the septic issues, and, you know, Matt will correct me if I'm wrong, but if the property owners at 50 Spinnaker Way are proposed to increase their septic system, they will have to provide an engineered plan. And Title V, the current state regulations, regulate the minimum distances from property lines, from wells, like has to be at least 100 feet away from all wells, including the homeowners, but also the abutter wells, and so on, so that there are standards that they will have to abide by. Engineers are very familiar with those. We also have a local regulation that also more tightly regulates certain aspects of septic system location and other attributes. So if they are proposing to increase the septic system to be able to expand the number of bedrooms, which they can legally do if they have the acreage, then there will be an engineered plan that would be available to the public, and there would be a hearing process.
I would just like to make one more comment.
Sure.
Do you need me to go up there, or can I just?
Can you,
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay.
Well, if
Why-
you
better
go
just
back,
go to
back.
microphone?
My other thing is, this property's being advertised as an event center, as a corporate event, weddings, showers, which I believe there was already a wedding party, get together, get yourself ready there. Can you explain to me, how can this, on the covenants of Spinnaker Way, it states that you cannot use properties aside of residing in them, but this is being the business run out of the residential neighborhood.
I can't speak to covenants. I mean, that's something you'd have to talk to a lawyer about. That's not something regulated by the Board of Health. We can address septic issues, well issues, sort of environmentally related issues. Other aspects of your concerns, and I don't doubt them, would need either through the building department in terms of other aspects of usage of the property, in terms of vehicles and so on. And then in terms of a covenant is usually, and I'm not a lawyer, maybe I have a lawyer here, maybe you can say, my understanding is that that's something that's done at the deed level, at the local, at the community, the neighborhood level. And that would be something that would be like a civil court or something. That would be a lawyer
Which I
thing. That's
understand.
not something that we can.
Correct, but we've been to the building department pushes us to the health department pushes us to the building, so it's almost like, who's gonna assist us with this issue? Like,
So let me be clear, we can, if it's okay, can I
Sure.
speak? We'll address the septic and the well and the environmental issues. We'll answer your questions all day long and try to help answer all those questions as much as we can. But when it comes to zoning and commercial use and business use, it's not in what we do. We cannot answer those questions.
Okay,
So only the building commissioner or the zoning enforcement officer, they're the appropriate ones to answer that question.
thank you for hearing me.
I would just say also, in addition to the covenant, when you were talking about the easement aspect, again, I would, just suggest that, like, an attorney or, take a look at that, because easement is usually for access, it's not usually for parking. So, again, depending on how the easement is written, if people are parking in the easement versus just using it to get from the street to the property, I think that's another thing that is worth looking at. And of course, there's a lot of people in this town who rent their homes, so for residential use. So I think that is generally, even though money is changing hands, it's not really considered commercial activity. I think there are towns who have specifically regulated Airbnb operations, but I think it requires a bylaw to do that. But I think holding events there is again something that someone who's really familiar with land use and zoning would need to look at. And I don't have that expertise
anybody else who'd like to speak? Come up to the mics. Name and address, please.
George Tavaz, 44 Meadow Road. This is not a zone business area. They're gonna collect money from doing weddings or whatever. That's a business, okay? Renting it out is a business. This is a residential area, not a zoned business area. So why, we shouldn't even be here. When they approached the town should have said, no, it can't happen because it's not zoned for business. End of story. We should not even be at this meeting today. So, why didn't the town just tell the people that wanted this, sorry, we can't do it? And it would have been the end of story and we would not be here today. Why is the town pussyfooting around? Are they afraid to say no to somebody that's gonna do something that is not allowed in our town, in our area? I just don't understand it. It should be end of story. It's not a business zone area. Why is it even being talked about to try to be allowed in there? I don't understand it.
I'm not gonna offer
Whether you are a specialist in the field of zoning or septic or whatever, you don't have to be a freaking brain surgeon to know that it can happen.
Well, let me say this. In saying that a property is zoned for residential use, right, does not mean that people cannot rent their property out for residential use, even though it's a commercial transaction. Because there are lots and lots of homes in this town that are rented out during the summer. So you need, in my opinion.
Yeah, rent it out to live in,
Well,
not
that's
to
what I'm
have a
saying.
business.
Well, so what I'm saying
Oh,
is.
well,
No, so I'm saying is, I think that is a difference between using it for events. But in any event, it's not within our jurisdiction to deal with that. What you're saying is that it's a zoning issue, and you need to press your case to the zoning enforcement officer, who is the building inspector.
but the town knows all these rules and regulations. So when they approached the town, they should have told them, no, it can't happen because it's not zoned for business. Whether you have to be in that field or not, anybody here knows that. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. Come on, folks. You know, you're gonna favor people that are trying to put something in our neighborhood that does not belong there? I just can't. This, I don't know. This country is changing, everything's changing, and it's all for the wrong reasons.
Thanks for your comment. I can understand that it's very upsetting, and it's.
upsetting.
it-
I've been
it-
living there since 1983, and now I'm gonna have to put up with this? I don't think so.
May I comment?
Sure.
It certainly is stirring up a lot of feelings, what's happening. And our role is limited. But there are things that you can do. You can go before, I would assume, the select board and express your concerns about some of the issues that are happening. They will refer back to the zoning board, but I think that what our role is, and it's been really clear, is that we're really limited in what we can help you with. And I want to address that, once again, because I'm a mental health professional, these things create a lot of anxiety and anger and frustration. And I hear that, and I think the board hears that. But we really are limited in what we can do. And I don't want to minimize or disregard anyone's feelings about what's happening. I certainly would feel the same level of frustration if it was happening in my own neighborhood. So in that regard, I'm going to hand it back to the chair, but I think that you have a forum and you're expressing yourself and you've organized, right? You're all here. So maybe together in a community association may be a way to go to approach the town entities to get what you desire. But I'm really happy to see all of you here and joining together for this purpose.
Question in the back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, you can come up to the mic. Just name and address, please.
Hi, Anthony Grassi. I own the property at 52 Spinnaker Way. I thought it was gonna be 52B, but it's 52. And it's 52A. I'm not completed building my house yet. I just bought the property a year and a half ago, still building. But I found out about what was going on here today, so I figured I'd come down. First of all, question, who are the people that are doing this? Who's the other party involved? That's you guys? Oh, I'm Anthony, your neighbor, nice to meet you. Hi. Which one? Oh, you?
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Anthony, nice to meet you.
actually, we went by your house and, but it's under construction.
It is under construction, yeah, we're almost done, but yeah, it's under construction. So, anyway, my question is, even though, like, I heard you say that there's over 660,000 square feet there.
I believe that's the case, yes.
Yeah, it is, there's about that, but like, so in acres wise, I believe it's like 16, but 50 of it's wet,
Mm-hmm.
underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so really they only have like 1 acre to work with. And of that acre, you have the house and you have the well. So I'm sure you guys are gonna do your due diligence when it comes to what size septic they need to put in. They only own 50 feet of frontage too. Then Anna and Jimmy, the Silvers, own a 50-foot piece in the front that ends up going in the back, so it's a retreat lot, that they have. I have a retreat lot, and then their property ended up being a retreat lot as well, so they only have the 50 feet of frontage in the middle. It kind of bows out a little bit, so that would be the area that they would be doing their septic system in. The only thing that I ask is that they do it within the setbacks of the property lines, and also that easement that goes on if you're looking at it from the street, the right side of the property, there is a driveway there, and then there's an easement for us to access the back property. Now, I understand what you were saying, it doesn't, the easement is for us to access it so they can drive on it too, but you're right, they can't park on it. So we also have a 12-page decision in our deeds regarding stuff that we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have a monthly meeting to take care of the road, the driveway upkeep and maintenance and all the other things as well. So we're gonna have to get together and at least talk about that, and keeping the parking people that you are Airbnb and keeping them off our access road. So I understand also, and as for all the neighbors, this isn't the meeting to be talking about what they can and can't do. This is their way of trying to get a septic system, which is their first step towards getting their approvals for everything. So when we get to the other meetings, that's when you wanna start, wanting to talk about traffic studies and talking about impact on the neighborhood and all that other stuff. That's different meetings. And I'm gonna be at every one of them. Believe me, I'm gonna be at every one of them. I'm building a house that the town just assessed me over $1 million for in that neighborhood. I'm not letting this, go through if it's not perfect and right. And as a matter of fact, you can read your 12-page decision that we had to go through, the hoops that I have to jump through just to put a house there because it's a setback that the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health put on me, on my property 6-7 years ago regarding, I'm nowhere near, I'm over 150 feet from my nearest wetland line, but I have to put 900 square feet of permeable pavers around my yard. I have to have tanks that catch all my rainwater into the tanks. I had to do all that because of the meetings the town had and the amount of stuff they wanted done right. So I'm sure you guys are gonna do it right. And I'm just trying to tell the other neighbors, it's gonna be done right. If it's done at all, it's gonna be done right. So my only statement is make sure they fall within that area in the front where they're allowed to have their septic system. And an 8-bedroom septic is pretty big, so as long as they don't encroach on their side, which that was their concern, and as far as our side goes, and the east access, the easement, as long as they're not
tearing up that, and we can't drive over it anymore, which is all in the deed and everything else, so we'll just see what happens.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I think you'd be a,
You're still missing the point. No septics or nothing shouldn't be talked about. It's not zoned for business, the area, so it should be no matter what.
I'm on your side, believe me, I'm on your side.
But you keep bringing up the septic. Who cares about the damn septic? I don't care if it's front room to put 20,000 pounds of manure in there.
Sorry about this.
I mean, really.
Their issue,
We do care about the septic.
their scope is
You're not
limited.
getting the message. You're not getting the point.
Their scope is limited to the septic. This is meeting number 1 of 100.
But we shouldn't even be here discussing this.
I understand that, but we have to.
It's
go
not
through the
zone
steps.
business, end of story.
We have to
That's
go-
it.
We have to go through the steps, sir.
What are you gonna go through, except the town should have, no, I know, buddy, I know, but the town should have said no to the people that look at the beginning, because it's not
Out of
zoned.
order.
What do you mean they can't? The law states that area has to be zoned for business, for a business.
Mr. Tavares, I'm gonna ask you to go out in the hallway if you'd like to continue that discussion.
Anybody get the message, man? Nobody gets it. Nobody gets it.
Mr. Sylvia.
Jimmy Sylvia, the owner of 52A Spinnaker Way. I just want to have some assurance. I have another property, and I had a similar matter that the next door neighbor installed a Title V septic and encroached onto my property. And for some weird reason, I don't know why it wasn't staked out, wasn't marked out, but it took 2 years of attorney fees, and it went to the civil, it went through the civil process, but I had to go 2 years, miss time out of work, and a lot of money to fight it, which I was found not at fault. But if the septic does get approved, is it gonna be exactly staked out where they're gonna dig and where my property lines are? Because I'm abutting 50 Spinnaker Way. I have a 20-foot strip that abuts 50 in the next door neighbor. 20-foot strip, and then it flays out to 50 feet approximately, because I have 50 feet on one side of 50 Spinnaker Way, Tony has the other 50 feet, and the remaining for 50 Spinnaker Way, I believe, is 51, 52.
Okay.
I know you told me the setbacks, like you mentioned earlier, saying, oh, there's setbacks and stuff like that, but everyone has rules, but they always get broken, and I'm a living proof of one of them. I had to spend 2 years in court fighting, and I had my lane surveyed and all, while my next door neighbor just installed a septic system, because it was a raised system, it was a 3-2-1 slope, and then coached on my property.
Well, I'm sorry that you had that experience. We do, and I'll let Matt talk about the inspection process, but it is, the engineers certify that their plan, now the installer has to follow that plan, you know,
But
what's
do
on.
they actually stake out? I mean, I work in a construction field, and when we do work, we have the surveyor comes down, and he stakes out the area. I mean, he just doesn't, oh yeah, right there's the boundary, we're gonna start excavating over there. I mean, are you guys gonna actually flag it and put actually stakes in the ground?
We do not. The Board of Health does not. That's not our responsibility.
No,
but I'm-
that's not your responsibility, but you're gonna impose it on the homeowner if it does get approved, that they have these steps to go through before they start digging up land, and they could be digging up my land.
I'm gonna turn to Matt to respond.
So there's a process for these things, right? So they've hired an engineer, they schedule a perk. Before they do the perk, they'll scope out and identify the property lines before they just roll in with an excavator to start digging holes for a perk test. Once they do the perk test, they'll submit plans. The engineer will say, okay, you have this much space to do this or do that. Until they submit plans for us to review, we don't know the scope or the boundaries of the system until we see a proposed design plan. So, but yes, when they will scope out the property lines before they roll in with a machine to start digging.
Because the only markings out there right now, there's white markings right in front of the property, right from the street, right at the edge of the street where the grass meets. There's lines there, but those lines, it's like approximately 150 feet long, but that's not the whole property, that width.
I think when they come out to do the perk test, they'll do some more marking out before they just come in and start digging holes. But, they did hire an engineer to do that, so.
So I would just add, when there's an expansion of the septic system, if it's a 4-bedroom now, however big they want, that's treated as new construction under our regulations and under Title V, which is the state regulations. And so there's very, very limited flexibility in allowing variations from the rules that would be set in our regulations and set in the state regulations. And then their engineer certifies, and there is, and then our folks go out and do inspections at various times. But there's a certification based on the detailed engineered plan, and there's a certification when that the septic system was installed according to the plans. So there is a fair amount of, it's a combination of our oversight and the requirement of the engineer, according, to their rules, that they're personally certifying that the system is in compliance with what we approved as it was constructed.
After you guys get the plans,
We get the plans, we review it, approve it, then it goes out and installed, then the engineer comes out and certifies, which means it certifies that what we approved was what was installed.
do you guys go out there to make sure it's
And
within
then,
the setbacks and the abutting neighbors?
for certain parts of it, yes. We don't
Well,
we don't go out and resurvey
Well,
it again.
but do you go out there before they start excavating, is what I'm saying? At the initial start of excavation, do you guys go out, or you send someone out to verify the property lines of the abutting neighbors?
No, we don't do that.
So they don't go
We
trying.
don't resurvey, we rely on the engineer to survey the property lines. And then
And
if
who's
it involves
engineers?
depending where they put it, it also has to go in front of the Conservation Commission for review, because there are limits of work within wetland areas. So the conservation agent kind of looks at that, and that's all reflected in the plan. But we're not out surveying,
No, I
I
understand
if
you
it's staked
guys.
out, then, we're gonna rely on, what the engineer is saying in terms of the accuracy. But you could have your property surveyed if there was any issue as to where the property lines were. So you could, everyone would have access to the plans, because these are, so.
Public.
Yeah, but I mean,
Not you personally, but if you wanted to, it would, if you were insecure about what the engineered plans look like relative to the distance to your property line, you could hire a professional who would come in and certify that for you.
cause I mean, like I said, from past experience, 2 years in civil court, back and forth, it's all time out of work, money. And
Yeah.
come to find out, I was had all my right, cause what happened was, on my last one, like I said, it was a 3-2-1 slope. I was expanding my backyard, I took some of the slope off, and then I get a thing in the mail from my next door neighbor, he's suing me to install a retaining wall. And by all means, if he was to install that septic properly, you wouldn't have to install a retaining wall.
Right, well,
So that's why I'm trying to avoid another
yeah,
matter.
right.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Rob Pellegrini, I represent the owner. I feel like it might be a good idea to take some heat off of this board. I mean, obviously, it's not really something that you should be dealing with at this point, and maybe we can suggest everybody writes down their email address and we do some sort of a neighborhood meeting or something like that. I think this definitely got started off on the wrong foot. They had ideas that they quickly realized they can't do, so it's just an Airbnb now. There's about
You don't want that
700.
at all, though, that's the problem. You don't want none of that, not even an Airbnb.
Okay, I don't wanna have that chat right here in this forum, but, that's just my suggestion.
Yeah.
they're certainly willing to do it. They're not the type that want to steamroll anybody or do anything that's not allowed. I think they've shown that since realizing their initial error, so they just want to keep doing that. And I'd suggest, I mean, there's a public discussion, there's no Title V issue before this board right now. I just think everyone would benefit more from that type of a chat versus trying to yell at board members that really don't have
So,
anything to do with
I got a question, so you're stating for the record that it's strictly Airbnb, no event center, no showers, no weddings?
No.
Then why are booking people with balloons, plus numerous people
Excuse
coming in and out of
me,
home?
You don't have the floor right now, so if you'd like to speak, you can come up to the podium. But I will acknowledge and agree with the representative that the forum you're looking for, he's offering something that will be probably more productive than us hearing your complaints that we can't act on, because all we can act on is the septic system. And that is something, when and if there is a proposal to increase the septic, there'll be a public process for that. But right now, we have nothing before us. They've complied with our request to have the septic tank pumped and so on and so forth. So we offered this forum as an opportunity because we know that people are pretty upset, but this is not the ideal forum for you to resolve those issues. And I would suggest that you take him up on his offer, provide your email addresses, and allow for a community meeting, because Airbnbs are not regulated in this town, and therefore that's something you need to address in another forum, not in this forum. We do have other hearings today at this meeting, so if you'd like to speak and put your name on the record, you may do so. Well, I'm speaking to this woman here. If you'd like to, you can do that quickly, and then I will turn to that. You're next, and then I'm going to ask to close it, and you can follow up with the homeowner's representative.
Before you close it, I just want, and after my neighbors speak, I just wanted to add one more thing about the septic, if I could, please.
You
Would you
may
go
do
over
so. We're going to try and keep this short, but you're next. Sure.
Alyssa Menard, 49 Spinnaker Way, so directly across the street. So I do have one question. So right now there's a cease and desist on the property. So my question is, how does that not prohibit any of this from moving forward because they are not living in the home? That is not their residential address. It's actually right here that their address is 39 Jennings Way. So how is that not stopping all of those productions from moving forward?
There are a lot of people in town who have properties that they don't reside in. They rent them out.
Correct, but
They
those
use
aren't
them.
residential neighborhoods, correct?
They use, we've just gone through 9,000 records, and believe me, there are plenty of people who own property in town and don't live in it.
Right, but I think our concern is by increasing it to an 8-bedroom, that's just their way of getting around it to make more people be able to be in the home at one time. So, I mean, it's, can you see where we would be?
We don't have a proposal to increase to 8 bedrooms in front of us, so we can't speak to that right now. I can understand why that would be a concern. That seems like a really big property for a neighborhood. I don't know of any property that we have in town that has 8 bedrooms. So, but again, I believe the representative has spoken about the revised plans, the way they plan to use the property going forward, and you're best off speaking directly with them, because we don't have anything in front of us that we can speak to.
Right, but with all due respect, you didn't answer my question with the cease and desist. How is that not stopping any of this, with any of, why is this being done right today? There's a cease and desist on the property. How is that not,
Who issued the cease and desist?
I have a letter right here.
Was it the zoning? Was the building people?
You'd have to take that up, I mean, it's not our jurisdiction, you have to take that up with the building department.
Well, but still, we're discussing the septic.
There are two separate issues. The septic, they can use the property for 4-bedroom use, and which is what they say they are complying with right now. So our issue is not, has been addressed in terms of septic. I didn't read that, I don't know what else the building inspectors spoke to, but that's another department.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I think we have to take through this one for the 6th time, too.
Okay, yep.
Hi.
Hi.
Allison Lewine, 11 Spinnaker.
Okay.
I think I'm hearing, I have some confusion. I'd like to understand from the board. You say to us that this is not a part of what you are all doing right now, right? This is not, you're not the group to go to, yet it is a public forum to talk about whether or not, actually, maybe that's a better question to you. What is the purpose of the meeting today and why? It was just, you decided to hold an open public forum because you knew that there was potentially discussion around increasing the septic?
We heard that there were complaints about this property having to use, that would affect the impact, the septic size. We don't have any plans before us, but we agreed to have a discussion to allow people to give us their feedback about what the issues are that would be relating to what we can, what's in our jurisdiction, so the usage of the property. We've heard that there has been increasing, or some increase, and maybe went down, and maybe increased use again. And so that's what we've heard. Other issues that are being raised in this forum are ones that we can't, that are not in our, bailiwick. And I want to give people an opportunity to express those concerns, but we can't address them in this forum. So I could have said, just talk about septic, but that wouldn't allow.
No, the reason I was asking is because I wanted to make sure that I was articulating to what meets your jurisdiction about my concerns.
Right.
I moved into Westport, into that home as a single mom of 2 kids in a beautiful neighborhood. And it's now being compromised, and it starts with an approval of a septic design. It's not a home, we're not in your home, we're not in Jennings Way. You didn't build it there, you built it in my home. Where my kids, right up and down that street, every single day, at 10 years old. My daughter, who I let ride her bike up and down that road at 10 years old, alone. And I've done that every day with the sanctity of my first solo home in town. And you're compromising my security for my family. And I truly respect, the Airbnb side. I know you can't mandate that. I think anyone can do what they want to with their property. I'm just respectfully asking everyone to consider that this is our home, and these will come before you. And I sat here and I heard you say that this is for the building inspector, it's not for y'all. But the building inspector is telling us it's you. And we're already getting conflicting information. And I have to believe that as an organization of this town, you talk. And you try to decide what's best for this small town that I'm fighting every day. I'm personally to keep my kids in this school system, in this town that is a small town. I understand that everyone has a right to do things. I appreciate your decision to open a public forum. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it here. And I just asked, and I know that you're not making any decisions here right now, but no one came to me when this was happening. It wasn't something like everyone came to the town, those of us that live in that area, and said, how would you feel about this? How would you feel if we opened it up and sold it as something that was going to potentially involve 8 bedrooms? I guarantee you every single person down that road would have said no, because we're not putting it in your neighborhood, and we're certainly not putting it in yours. And so I know there's no decisions being made, but I think it's important that all of our names are on the record, and we'll do what we have to do, because we want to keep our families in this small town that we've all said we want to do. It's a beautiful home, beautiful area, and we all have the right to do what we want in our own little homes that are made the size of what they are to keep it there, not to have an extrapolated business that potentially puts not only at risk my little girl driving
even allowing someone to come in and potentially expand that septic system brings trucks up and down that. It brings people in and out of that. We like to keep our community there. I know every single person that comes up and down that lane. Well, I did, but I don't, because nobody decided to reach out to me and let me know that they were moving in. But that's how we do this. When I moved in 3 years ago, everyone came to my home and said, welcome to Spinnaker Way. So, thank you for that.
Thank you. Very quick, because
Quick question, I wanted some clarification, I'm a little confused. I'm Lori Lockman, I live on, actually on Light 54 Lighthouse Lane. It's my understanding it's a 4-bedroom septic that they have now?
correct.
So how can they have 5 bedrooms? That's my question.
They have assured us that they're not using, there's no longer 5
Yeah,
bedrooms.
sure.
May I just add
Is anybody
one,
there to see that they don't use it?
It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
may I just add one last thing?
Yep, that's it, and then we'll close the discussion.
When my husband stood up here and said about surveying properties, we were just advised that maybe perhaps we should hire a private surveyor and survey our property. Our property has been surveyed within the last few years, but I also recommend why doesn't Mr. Andrews himself hire a survey? He hasn't done so, and him be the one to have the added expense out of his pocket to resurvey his property and have stakes and so everybody's happy and knows where their boundaries are. I don't think I should be the one spending the extra money when I chose to buy a house in a neighborhood where I know all my neighbors, because we all live there. And now we have to deal with the strangers coming in and going every weekend, and the cars showing up after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, aside of the ones that show up at the check-in time. And just to add one more thing, this is gonna be nothing but the summer party house on Spinnaker Way, and I think everybody feels the same way. Because it started with 2 cars, it went up to 4 cars, so when you say it's not being used as a 5-bedroom, no offense, I understand you don't live next to us, they don't live next to us. And they did have the opportunity to tell us what they were doing with that property when they opened up their business and they started seeing the neighbors around. Some of us came home to little gift bags in a letter, which I took as a slap on my face. Welcome, we're running a business up the road from you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna close the discussion today. You have some opportunities to pursue either discussion with the property owner and representative, or if you have zoning related concerns, you can bring that to the zoning officer or to the Board of Selectmen. Thank you very much. I'm gonna call the 4:50 PM discussion, Len Potter, representing 7 Mullen Hill Road, Michael Dooley, denitrification requirement for property in quicksand pond area, and stormwater regulation discussion.
Also, some plans and there with
Thanks for being patient, man.
I've been there before.
Could you please take the discussion outside?
Just give us
Okay, Len Potter, Westbourne Environmental Design. Mrs. Dooley, they're out of Corinth, Texas, and they were gonna be coming up, she was gonna come up, but, it's a $1,500 trip for airfare and car rental and a hotel. And I don't know what's gonna happen, but what happened with this property, she sent an email, and she told me, you got a copy of it? No, you got a copy.
I have your letter.
She sent an email to the board.
Oh, I remember seeing the email, but I don't remember, I don't think it's
Well,
ever happened.
essentially what she's saying, she's making a statement that she just wants the board to consider the fact that the office lot, they did speak to me before they bought it, and the property, they bought it February 10th of 2021. They asked me, do we need a denitrification system? I said, no, we don't. And then after February 10th, they made their plan, they drilled a well, this, that, and the other. By the time they got everything finalized, it was after October 1st. The plan got submitted, and it ended up, they need denitrification. and mainly because the board passed a regulation on new construction in Westport. If you look at the property is at Mullen Hill Road, 320 feet from the Little Compton line, east of the Little Compton line. And that's known because the lot next to them is 320-foot frontage. Their driveway is shown on the plan. At that point, all the stormwater and the lot all shed into the road and goes down into Little Compton. And the septic system is located at the far southwest corner of that property. And as you can see the contours on the property, you can see that everything is sloping from the house location at an elevation, an average of 102 down to 95 where the septic is. And if you look at the documents I just passed out, I blew up the topo map of the property. And you can see that the topo map indeed shows the same. You can see the peak where the eastern half flows toward Old Harbor Road, and the western half is flowing into Little Compton. Little Compton, the watershed there would be the Quixon Pond watershed. And I made another map, I blew it up. Their corner of their lot where the septic is about 2,200 feet from a brook, which flows into Quixon Pond. And if you look at the topo map, you'll see the property in pink, you see benchmark 31-3, and then you see a cemetery, and then you see there's a hole there. And as you come out of their driveway and drive down, you're driving downhill, about 400 feet up, the road comes up and a slight hill and goes back down. And that water would dump into that hole that you can see on the topo map, so it doesn't run right into the brook. And you can see there's one house in between this lot and the brook. So the question is, I understand we have to protect everything, but this thing is so far out of the Westport River watershed. They bought the lot under the impression that they did not need denitrification, and then a carte blanche regulation is made. No matter where you are, you need to have denitrification. And I just want, not so much, I don't think I want to change your mind tonight, but I think you should think about situations like this. We're so far away from the Westport River watershed that it's unbelievable. There's no way that, and we're gonna talk about stormwater, there's no way that the nitrates are ever gonna get to that brook directly. They're gonna fall off the road or down the slope into that pothole, which is forested, and it's going to take care of itself down that hole. And they are members of the Buzzards Bay Association, and in that letter, she says that they just got an annual report from Buzzards Bay, and it says that forested land is a good protection for the watershed. And that's a dual purpose, stormwater and DNR. So they asked me if I would speak to the board to see if they would waiver, the board would waiver on the requirement for denitrification. We know the extra cost of denitrification, in this case, runs about $13,000, plus the ongoing operation and maintenance. And they consider it to be a burden, like anybody else would. So that's my point on the nitrates. The stormwater, and I know you're not gonna change the stormwater regulations, but I really think the board should look into
Actually, we do
this.
wanna change it.
What's that, Steve?
Actually, we do wanna change it.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's important, because if you look at this thing, you've got a rain garden here that is, it's approximately about 55 feet long. You've got a stone apron that's 20 feet long. You've got a stormwater roof catchment area, which I have no problem with, in the rear. Now, they claim in that letter, the email, that, and I'm not the contractor here, guys, I'm the engineer, that's it. They have another contractor put in a modular home, I have nothing to do with the work site. But they're saying that roof water drainage area is $8,000. And they're saying that the rain garden is running around 13,000, and the stone apron's about 5,000. And including the land clearing for it. And if you look at this, this is a forested lot, from front to back, from east to west. They have to clear for the house and the proposed garage and the driveway. But look at the expanse that you have to clear. It's 70 feet wide coming up the driveway. And it's really, instead of looking like a nice little forested lot, they wanted to nestle there. This is a small home by Westport standards. This is one floor. They want to nestle into the woods, and now they're gonna have the ponderosa in front of them, in this rain garden. And one of the big problems with the stormwater regulations is catching the 100-foot storm, 8 inches of water in 24 hours. And your regulation, and I know you didn't draw it up, was approved in 2012, exceeds DEP's regulations, and it exceeds the planning board regulations. I have nothing to say bad about the planning board regulation. When they do a subdivision, that's when they step in. They do not step in on single-family lots. And that might be something that the board's missing. But I don't see a lot of rain garden in some of these new lots. But regardless, it exceeds those regulations. But in a subdivision, you can tuck your retention basins. You can stick them in a corner off to the side, so you don't have these rain gardens in somebody's front yard or backyard. When you talk about a single-family lot, you're on a single-family lot. I mean, even though this is a 3-acre lot, it's still overbearing to have to clean that lot when all you wanted was a home nestled in the woodland. There's much that has to be done for that. I mean, that's a huge area. That thing averages 70 feet wide, and that thing runs almost 140 feet. So you're looking at almost 8,000 square feet. Along with a septic, which you have no choice, but that stormwater regulation should be looked at. And the biggest thing they tell me is the 100-year storm, trying to catch that. And that's basically what I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. I'm gonna turn to Matt for your comments first, and then we'll open it up to the board.
So I'll just address it one at a time. The plan was approved, I don't know, a meeting or so back, 2 meetings back maybe, presented with D-Night and the stormwater. I think if they wanna try to vary our local septic reg, then they would have to withdraw the plans and then resubmit without D-Night and then come in for a formal variance hearing, on that. As far as stormwater goes, I think we have the regulation that's approved and that we go by, that's in front of us now. I don't know, the board will have to try to nobody's ever come in to try to vary the stormwater regulation before, and the size and scope of their stormwater requirements. So this is something new, I think, for the board to consider. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to add.
What I would suggest with the stormwater, and I spoke to Matt about it, is to have a meeting with engineers and let them come in and let's sit down and talk about a realistic approach to stormwater. And it's important to deal with stormwater, I say fine. And I think that's the best way to approach it. I spoke, and my son David, who is a site engineer and does this all the time from large projects, knows the regulations, and he came in and he spoke to the board about it and the excessiveness of it. But they didn't listen, and they just went and passed it. And I just think it needs to be revisited. The stormwater calculations for this, I don't know if Matt's got it with him, but it's about a half-inch thick. And it's not the first one that we've done. We've got one up on Plymouth Boulevard. That was about 3/4 of an inch thick. And it costs, it's like $2,500, $3,000. Alan LaRue told me he had one was $5,000. That he didn't do, we had to send it out to a site. So that's another cost to these people. And then I say stormwater, yeah, that's a good thing. Let's talk about the town. When does a town ever do anything about stormwater in the road? There's a rainstorm, they take the backhoe, open up the shoulder, dump it right into the swamp of the brook, right down here in Snow Creek. And I understand that, but I mean, What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're gonna take care of the water in this lot, what about the water that enters the road?
So-
Nothing gets done about that.
So there's two things
You
going
could
on.
bring
We
that
have-
up with the,
What's that?
you could bring that issue up with the Board of Selectmen.
That's right,
Mhm.
I agree.
So there's two things going on, right? So we have this plan with this stormwater, and then we have big picture, we need to revisit the stormwater regulation.
Which has been on our radar, so
Right.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on that.
So
So,
go ahead.
no, you finish.
I just, so I think the board needs to think about, how do they wanna address this plan with this stormwater plan, and, I'm not clear, if Lenny is asking for a variance from the stormwater regulation.
I'm not asking for a variance, I'm just asking, because I know I'm not gonna get one anyway, I'm asking that the board look at the regulations, and you've spoken to me about that, and that's a fine thing, but I'm just saying, as time goes on, I just think it's getting out of hand. I mean, these people are gonna spend $30,000 on doing the stormwater on a single family lot, that's a lot of money. And it's not just about the money, it's that it can be treated in a fairer way. Do something, but you don't have to do to the extent, 100-year storm, come on, that's once every 100 years.
Not these days.
Yeah,
Huh?
really.
Not these
Yeah,
days,
so-
look at California.
Well,
But,
yeah,
but-
that's California.
yeah, well,
They went through a drought for 25 years, now they're paying for it. They don't
Yeah,
need that.
It's all those prayers, Lenny, they all prayed and then they all got answered at the
That's
same
right.
time.
They did the rain
Um,
dance and they got it.
yeah, I have no, expertise with the stormwater regulation, that of course is a legacy regulation that none of us were involved in.
No.
I don't see a variance provision in it. I mean,
There is none, and I'm not
Yeah.
asking for one, I just wanna bring it to the board's attention on behalf of these people. But I see it all the time, and it's got to the point, I don't even wanna do a new construction, because it's just too complicated.
Yeah.
It's expensive, and people look at you like you got three heads, cause you give them a bill for $2,000. And the sad thing is, when I was in college, we did stormwater, but everything was a hand calculation. And now it's computers, but it's still just more complicated.
Yeah.
John Rockwell drew the regulation up, and John's a good friend of mine, and he's very intense, and he really went overboard in making those regulations. And
well, I'll take,
you work-
we appreciate your feedback on that. I think we have had it on our to-do list. And we, as you know, are a very, active board and have been doing a lot of projects.
Right, no, I know that.
And this is on the list. So I agree with you that that's something, you're
Yeah,
expressing, you would wish more urgency on our part to try and
right,
address it
that's the
sooner.
idea,
If you can get us some more help,
right.
then we
Really?
have more resources to work on it. But so I don't disagree with that, and I, take your advice on that to heart. I'm not sure, legally, if we can I mean, I don't know how to manage the current, you're suggesting the current project, is overkill, and how can we address that, I'm talking strictly on the stormwater.
Stormwater, yeah.
And I don't know if there's some legal way we can, address that under our current regulation, until we have a new regulation. Phil, do you have any suggestions on if there's some way to do that?
Well, I wanna, just take a slightly different tack on
Okay.
it, which is that, so they've got, this is all paved,
No,
it's,
it's gravel driveway.
okay,
They don't dare pave it because now it goes to 100% runoff.
so
It's clamshell, he likes clamshells.
So I'm surprised because because I assumed that the rain garden was the result of it being, of not being pervious, and so I don't understand, what it is that is, and why there is the necessity for it, and I think a lot of people get around the stormwater by, you know, putting in, by doing by doing a pervious pavement. So,
It's not pervious.
but so I'm just surprised that a pervious driveway would require that level of control.
Because it's not just the driveway, you have the whole area in front of the home contributing.
Right,
The
okay,
driveway
yeah, right.
The
But
driveway
it's
has
all
to,
grassed in. I mean,
Right.
so they, which I think is pretty standard now, of people putting dry wells in for the roof runoff.
right, no problem with
Okay,
that.
and they have, I mean, so here is a little bit where, their well, I don't know how much this is a function of construction, but it seems that what they've done is, that what they want is this fairly big lawn area, right? So they've kind of clear cut all this and turned it into a lawn rather than, keeping it more, keeping a heck of a lot less grass and more trees. Obviously, they have to clear the storm, for the septic system, but I mean, I guess I'm thinking that there's more that could be done in the way this property is landscaped to reduce the size of the rain garden. I've never seen a single home, maybe I'm overstating it, that has required a rain garden almost invariably. But this is a very long road,
Yes.
and there's a lot of pitch, and I would, I would just be concerned, because I think there are houses on the other side, across the street from this, that all this runoff is gonna go into the street, and then we're gonna start to get people complaining that they're flooding the road. And the 100-year storm is kind of like the standard. So I'm open to having, an engineering discussion about this. But I just wonder whether there is a different way that the property, could be landscaped, or the rainwater could be diverted in other ways, coming down the road, with, like, there's a two-part story. One, the highway department did a major job. I live towards the end of Drift Road, and they totally because the flooding was so bad there, from a similar kind of long road that flooded, and in the winter, you got the storm, you got the freeze-thaw cycle, which is breaking up the road, and so they built in a whole new sewer system there, a whole new, not sewer,
Drain
stormwater drainage system there.
at the south end of Drift Road,
Well, I guess, the south end of Drift Road.
they cut the ditches in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, the ditches have been there for 100 years.
yeah, but they really.
They widened them up.
They
yes,
really,
yes,
they
yes.
made them big, they did big catch basins around them, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I mean, I'm just anxious to say that if this much stormwater detention was required by the numbers here, that just to say, okay, let's forget about it, I think, then I'm worried that we're gonna get a big problem here. But I just do think that the property could be landscaped in a way, and again, I'm surprised about this, generating so much. But if most of the problem, if this is pervious, and most of the problem is coming because they clear cut all this to have a big grass, lot here, then they lose a lot of my, setting aside that I totally agree that the stormwater regs need to be revised,
The trouble is the size of that 100-year storm. and the 800 cubic foot of storage. And the pool,
Yeah.
the soil perks at 22. I got it right here.
Yeah, so,
15 minutes. So you haven't got, this isn't Cape Cod. So you have to deal with the porosity of the soil when you're doing your stormwater calculations.
yeah, yeah.
So in order to store that and retain it and then into the substrata, you have to have a large catchment area in order to let it permeate into the ground. And then,
Well, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, for example, okay, in my neighborhood, what they did is they built swales along both sides of the road where, that were set up so that the rain went into like a gully,
yeah.
and it was pitched high, so it didn't had a chance to get absorbed, and then it kind of went all the way down
Right.
the road that way. I just,
Strikers Lane,
yeah.
you know, I built them drains down there.
Yeah, I just think it needs to be more creative.
And it took a lot of, but the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, detention basins, our retention basin doesn't work, so you're trying to be the mildest of them all and do it with a rain garden. But the regulation just requires you catch that air. They don't really want grass in the front, but the problem is, see, there's a high bank coming in off Mullen Hill Road, it's about 8 feet high. So they've gotta cut that driveway in and cut all the way up to the house site. And I was hoping in the beginning they'd want to be a little closer to the road, but they're not. But I can have my son come in and explain the whole thing.
Okay, well, I just don't want the rainwater flushed out into the road and flushed out into
No.
the neighbor's property.
No.
But I will say, just changing topics, I agree with Mr. Potter in regard to the denitrification system. I've expressed, my reservations about this before, but I also contacted Rhode Island, DEM, and because they have areas in which they require septic, denitrification systems. And I was on the telephone, but he was looking at, we kind of looked at the maps together, and they've defined certain critical resource areas as areas that require denitrification. The area, this area is not one that requires that. There's no public water supply. So if this system was being built in, just over the border in Rhode Island, they would not require denite. And so I think if, so I do think it is, I do think it's worthy to reconsider, giving them a variance, because it's clearly out of our watershed. Rhode Island wouldn't protect it with denite, and I don't understand, in the absence of any environmental gain, why we would do that. So that's my opinion about the denite. But I also think, I'm reluctant to mess between the 100 and the 25-year storm, but, maybe if David comes in and can make a case, then.
No, I won't waste any more of your time.
It's, as to whether or not we can do it, we've got a lot of discretion.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of if we want to exercise it.
Well, he's very flexible.
But I also think I would have to be convinced there wasn't another way to landscape this to reduce the, to reduce it and still come close to the 100-year.
It's not imperative, right, it's not, they're just getting started with the home.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of work to do, so but I can set up an appointment when it's convenient, we can talk about
I mean, that's
that.
just my opinion, it may not be that.
I understand, I understand.
I think that's worthwhile to do.
If we don't bring these things out, we're never gonna get anywhere.
Okay,
But what
So-
I'll do with the D-9, I can't cancel the man's plan, the drawing, because he's building a house. The plan can stand, I can do a plan without D-9 and ask for a variance. Whether I'll get it or not doesn't make any difference, but I can do it that way.
I'm not convinced.
I didn't think it would be, to tell you the truth.
I'm not convinced, because, you know, our regulation is new construction. And I'm not really caring if it's on the Rhode Island border or not. We have to be concerned about all watersheds and all, the environment. So I don't agree with you, Mr. Phil.
It's
Well,
never,
yeah.
it's
right.
never gonna get to the Quixon Pond watershed. Nothing. Guarantee it. Take a ride out there and look at it.
Okay.
Okay, we have to get out of this room by
I know.
6 o'clock, so I'm gonna suggest that the ball is in your court. If you would like to seek a variance, you may do so.
I just
Um,
can't withdraw this plan and let the man hanging. You're gonna keep the plan. I can submit a second plan.
We've run into this before, and I think, if I remember correctly, I'd have to look back and figure out when it was, but we couldn't have an approval and then have another one in front of us for an approval. I think that the board had said, well, if you wanna do that to whoever that was, they'd have to withdraw one and resubmit another. But I'd have to go back and research it to figure out when that was and who it was, so.
Just research it and let me know.
Okay.
I can't tell a man to stop building his house. He's got to, what I do.
Yeah, he has some decisions to make. And then with regard to the stormwater, the larger stormwater regulation issue, we'll take that under advisement
Yeah.
and maybe that'll help
Yeah,
us,
I'll do that.
spur us forward faster than we are already pedaling
Right.
to try and get to that, because I think the whole, entire board is sympathetic to the,
Yep.
we've heard that from Matt, that regulation is unwieldy
Yep. And you
it's.
got a half-inch stormwater report, that's a lot.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Potter.
you, thank you.
And you're next, sorry. Let me pull my agenda so I can formally,
Hopefully this will be easy and short.
okay. This is a variance hearing, Bobby Marshall, for a replacement well less than 100 feet from the existing soil absorption system at 36 Red Cedar Road. We have your letter and plan, so the floor is yours. You
Yeah.
describe your request.
So, our current well is a very shallow well. We went 2.5 months without water this summer. It is very close to our neighbor's well,
Mhm.
which is his driveway, so he parks his truck really close to that well.
Mhm.
So we would like to have the well moved to the other side of the property, just to get away from that and to hopefully have more water during the summer and not have it run dry. It's a very, that existing well is very shallow. I think it's 18 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Could you drill a deep well there in the same location? That would still be 100 feet away, right?
It would. I just, my concern is the parking of the truck so close to that well. So fluids from that truck, radiator fluid, oil that will, gasoline that will, and has, leaked in everybody's vehicle, is going into that soil very close to there.
Okay.
The reason it's a little short is they moved it up a little bit because of the wires, for the street are actually, so we've had to move it up, so that's why it's a little bit short. So he has a little bit of play in there, to dig it, but he was put it at that point because of the wires.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn to Matt.
Yeah, so the rig would have a hard time getting under the wires, the well
Okay.
rig,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that's why, I don't know if it'd get 100 feet. So I looked at the sketch and tried to figure out where he could move it to get 100 feet, but no matter where you would move it, on that side of the property, I don't think you're gonna get 100 feet away.
Mhm.
I think 88 feet is the best you're gonna get, away from his, leaching field.
Mhm.
So so the board would have to, it's backwards, right? It's not a new septic system going in, it's a new well.
Mhm.
So, it'd be a variance situation, I think, or a local upgrade approval for being less than 100 feet away from the leaching field for the well.
Okay, yeah, so it's under Title V, not our regulation, right?
Right.
Concern I have is I don't know what it's it would be close to. Is there any indication that there's another SAS that's close by, like less than 50 feet, that
So
you'd
we
be
looked at-
putting?
Yeah, we looked at the records, there wasn't, across the street, there wasn't good records to show where the neighbors' existing systems were in relationship to that well.
They actually just redid, it's the Lord's house right across the street, and they put the septic all the way at the back of the property. So it's actually further away than our septic system.
Okay. And are there any other abutters?
Yeah, on both sides, but his septic system, where his driveway is, where the other,
Here?
his is on the other side of his house. And then the other house on that way, it's on the other side of the house, as best we can tell. No one's been occupying that house for a really long time, but we believe her septic is on the other side, or in the back of the house, which is quite a distance.
Okay.
We really don't have these situations often where
Yeah.
somebody's putting a new well and it's less than 100 feet from their septic. I would think that we would wanna treat it the same as we were putting in the septic.
Mhm.
You know, with the, maybe 3 years of water testing, and, cause it's gonna be less than 100 feet from the existing SAS.
I mean, do we know, cause there's no, or maybe there are some, I was just looking at the topographic, so it kinda looks like it's maybe slightly down gradient, but I don't have strong feelings about it one way or
Yeah.
the other. I think
I
it's,
don't know if I can pull up
I mean, our,
the GIS map fast enough.
our well regulations say you can put it within, you know, you can install a well within 50 feet of the septic system. So, I don't know how Title V, I appreciate what you're saying there, but if you just looked at it purely from how our current board regulations in terms of installing wells has a 50-foot setback. Obviously, Title V has a 100-foot setback when you're putting in the leach field. So I don't know, you know, quite what the right way, you know, to do about that is.
Okay, so let me just, any questions, Donna?
No, that was my main issue, is what
Okay.
was
Um,
going there.
So if the board is agreeable to this, then I would suggest a motion to grant a variance under Title V, because it's, a local upgrade approval under Title V, because it's less than 100 but more than 50 feet away, right? That would be the way to address it. I think the 3 years of water testing would be appropriate, in my opinion. Any other suggestions? Okay,
Should do a hold harmless?
Yes, definitely a hold harmless.
yes. And there are no, wetlands issues or anything,
Do we have to have Concom?
resource issues?
No.
Well, now you're really,
Yeah.
now you're really treating it as if it is a septic
Yeah,
system.
Yeah,
So-
right, yeah.
Cause
Yeah, well,
you guys are off the
Yeah.
water, you're not right on the water,
Yeah.
I don't
No.
think, they're across the
Okay.
street or a little bit away, so.
We're on the other
Yeah.
side of it.
Okay,
All right.
then I
Oh,
would
you mean from where this is, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
entertain a motion to approve the proposed new well locations, subject to 3 years of well testing.
So
We're almost
moved.
done,
And a hold harmless agreement?
and hold harmless. Are you making that motion?
Yes, so moved.
So a motion has been
Second.
made and seconded to approve a new well location for, 36 Red Cedar Road, according to the plan on file dated, we received it March 20th, 2023, with 3 years of well testing and a hold harmless statement. All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
I think the most important thing is a man has water, so
Yeah.
it gets the year round, so,
Well, he has water that he can drink.
yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not salty, don't go too deep.
No, it shouldn't. Shouldn't be salty, I'm going that way. I think if we were going the other way, that might be an issue. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry it was so late.
So I move that we adjourn this meeting unless there's any, did you have to do any of the other business stuff?
No, I don't think so. Do we have any other topics for next week, next meeting, or?
I
We're
guess-
doing it on the 18th at 4 PM, just a reminder.
Yep.
Second. Motion made and seconded to adjourn this meeting?
No,
All
I
in-
didn't
Oh,
make it. I
oh,
was
Jumping the gun.
You are jumping the gun. I wanted to make sure there was nothing else that we needed to discuss before I moved to adjourn the meeting
I have nothing.
at 6:02 PM.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you.